Hey, Firefly, what's up?
What's up, Butterfly? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I'm so excited. We're going to be doing another episode.
Oh,
And
yeah.
today's episode, we were thinking about talking about the movies, right?
Yeah, a lot of
And
the movies.
and specifically, are the movies kind of like revealing the plan to people?
Well, it kind of seems that way, or it's like, are they in the know? You know what I mean? Like it sort of seems like they do these movies that have these really weird kind of themes, and then maybe a couple years later, those things start to sort of happen
Kind
in
of
real
just
life.
coincidentally,
Yeah.
or like the Matrix, like we were talking about the Matrix, like the plot of the movie seems like it really pertains to
What's happening?
what's happening to us.
Right. And you know what's interesting, since we talked about all the blue pill and red pill and all of that stuff in the Matrix, um, it sort of seems like only the red pill people, the ones that kind of know what's going on, are able to see that these things that are shown in the movies are sort of metaphors or predictions of what might be happening. The
Yes.
people who are hardcore blue pillars, they don't really make the connection. They don't
They're
see
just like, Keanu is so hot.
so hot.
They don't really kind of make the connection like, wait a second,
Is
this
that what's
is
happening in real life?
pertaining to something real.
Yeah,
But see, like, okay, I can see making a movie that calls attention to something real,
something that's happening now
something that's
or
happening.
that's already happened.
But these movies are kind of talking about what's happening to you by them.
Right. And something that's like maybe gonna happen.
It's going to
Like
happen.
like it hasn't happened yet,
Yeah.
but then they seem to happen like
They're like,
in the
this
near
is where
future.
things are going.
So how does like how would a Hollywood movie maker make a movie about something that hasn't happened yet and then that very same thing happens in a few years?
Well,
How
I
does that work out?
I think that they have to, in order to make a movie, I think you need to genuflect to the cult.
Mm,
I think that's kind of the way it
why
works.
don't you elaborate on that?
Well, so the cult is like I kind of like to use the analogy that David Icke talks about.
Mhm,
How the cult is a big web,
mhm.
right? And there's an off-world entity. I call it Satan, but there's an off-world entity that's giving these hidden groups, like all of the Illuminati and
The elite.
the elites. These people are behind the scenes. We don't see them on the media, but they've got all the money and all the power.
And they control the media
They
in
control the
Hollywood.
media. And then the media is their propaganda arm. And what I think might be going on is movies are controlling. I think,
So, do you think they make these movies and then people end up doing the things in the movies? Or do you think that they know what's going to happen and they put these themes into the movies to sort of get the population accustomed to the idea of these things happening? If they see it in enough movies,
I think once you've seen something in a movie, then when it starts happening to you, you're kind of like, oh yeah, this is like that one movie. And oh my God, I can almost see like the way people are too, like going, oh, this is pretty cool.
yeah, this is cool.
I'm being
They're,
enslaved just like I saw in that movie.
yeah.
I'm a slave just like that one movie. And it kind of excited. Like
Yeah.
I'm kind of like cool now because I'm being enslaved the way that I saw depicted. So maybe that kind of conditioning too. And I think also like the lesser magic thing that, Aleister Crowley, he was a big influencer on all these people in the cult, right?
Hmm.
And what he said was you reveal the method, right? You need to tell people what you're going to do to them. And then there's some type of like,
Release
uh,
of it's like
I guess it's like a special dispensation for you
yeah,
spiritually,
he gets released of his guilt or
I guess.
punishment or whatever because
Which I
he
don't know if that is probably true. They're probably still going to get what's coming to them.
I know. But I think some of those really evil kind of people, they
Yeah.
think that if they show us what they're going to do to us and we go along with it anyway, we don't resist, then it's
Yeah.
our own damn fault. Like, too
Yeah.
bad. You just went along with it anyway. So
And I think there's
they're not
also,
guilty. They're like, wash
for
my
these
hands of it.
types of sociopaths, which I think they probably are, they
Totally.
probably kind of get off on showing people what they're doing to
Yeah.
them. Like, it's
Sick.
so cool.
Yeah.
Like, look at, I can even, I'm so cocky. I can just show you what I'm doing to you.
Yeah.
You know, I think there might be an element of that,
Yeah.
but I definitely think that, like, take a Matrix, take the Matrix for example. Like, I think it's not like somebody sitting in a room coming up with all of this. I think what they're doing is working with like a blueprint that they've been privy to.
Wow.
Because, like, look at the dudes who made the Matrix. Like, they're women now. There's like
Oh.
two brothers that are now two sisters.
So they're total cult members.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to be gulping down Kool-Aid to just be like, "Excuse me, it's ma'am." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think what they were people who said, "Sure, I'll go along." And then they say, "Okay, here, these are the plans. Can you make a movie with this kind of plan?"
Hmm.
Because if you look at like the plan in the movie,
Hmm.
it's keep people brainwashed by the media so they don't know the truth. Because what they really are is just being um, basically farmed for energy in the movie. So basically, your life has no purpose other than to power the elites and the system,
Hmm.
right? And I think what they're kind of suggesting is kind of what Elon's talking about. You know, it's like this post-human world where the machines have taken over and the machines control everything. And the machines have used the humans to power themselves.
Is that kind of what happened in that movie AI?
I didn't
Remember
see that.
they were all these robots, and but when you talk about powering up the environment, so to speak,
Yeah.
that makes me think about that really old classic movie, Soylent Green.
Soylent Green
Soylent
is
Green is
people.
people.
Yeah.
I
And
mean
then that
that.
one, the best line in that movie is when they go, they said that they were sorry, but that you were unreliable. And it's like, ooh, that sounds bad.
Yeah. Do you remember that movie at all?
I've seen it probably 10 years ago, but I remember like um, Soylent Green was like one day of the week where the food, that it was in the food, right?
It was people.
And it was dead people
Yeah.
being fed to you. Well, I mean, we were talking about how the dead people are being liquidated up in Oregon and
I know.
Washington and like put on the crops.
Well,
So it's kind of
it's
similar.
kind of gross because I've heard that they use like human cells to make like different flavoring and stuff in different foods and
Doritos,
yeah,
inserts.
and people love these things. Like they make them taste really good, and I've heard
Interesting.
that, part of the reason why they do that is to get us used to the idea of eating people. Is that just super creepy or what?
It probably could be. Well, I mean, that goes back to what's the cult kind of plan? I think what they're pretty much saying is you're kind of in the way. I don't know how to tell you, but you got to die.
But not all of you. We
Not
need
all
we
of you.
need a few of you
Yeah,
to,
you have
do our
some.
stuff.
Yeah, you have some value, but
Yeah.
there's way too many of you.
We
So we
need
need
like
to.
a few of you to like fly our private jets
Yeah,
and, wash our cars and stuff like that.
Bill
But,
Gates is like, we need to do better reproductive health. It's like, oh, we need to kill babies. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
in
think
other
that's
words.
kind of the gist of it. It's like a lot of people need to die. And that's kind of all these dystopian movies are kind of like leading towards that, you
Yeah,
know?
like what about the Hunger Games?
The Hunger Games, which I always felt like was the cult wet dream,
Oh my gosh.
you
So
know?
it's totally it's see, I can see the metaphor in that of what's happening in the world,
The
it's
elites like using us useless eaters as just entertainment at
yeah,
this point. Our lives have no value, but they'll just be like, fight for food. and
Mhm.
maybe we'll give you some food. And that's why it's the wet dream. It's Nancy Pelosi is saying, "Oh, Nancy, please, can I have bread today?" And she goes, "Very well." That's kind of like
Yeah.
what they want.
Yeah.
They want us groveling to them, begging them to give us just a crumb.
Yeah. On our universal basic income.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And they're going, "Well, why should I give that to you? What are you going to do for it? I'd like to see you fight to the death with this chick over here." It's like, okay,
For
well,
your bread.
yeah, exactly. I could totally see that. They want that because the spectacle of like they're so bored.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of got from that. It's
I
like
think,
bored elites, like, oh god, why
yeah.
don't we just have the peasants fight and we'll watch this? And
It's
then
like the
whoever wins, they get food for their village.
it's like the old Roman days where they would just
The
like
gladiators.
the gladiators, they would just fight to the death, and
And
people would
people
go watch it like, entertainment.
That's funny because that was what happened to St. Augustine in his conversion to Christianity. He got addicted to watching the gladiator games.
Mm.
So he was like, I can't stop watching death. So I think maybe there's like, remember like the guy who came up with Facebook? He was like, we'll have like bots like your content and you'll get an endorphin rush and you get dopamine.
These
I think
people,
they know about like all this crap.
yeah, and they're total sociopaths.
They are. They
They're
have
all,
no
they're all,
compassion.
they're just total
They can
psychopaths.
watch you just get tortured to death and just be like eating popcorn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that was entertaining.
Yeah. So, that's another one where they're kind of revealing the method. And I think they're kind of talking about a little bit more about like what they see happening. I think
Hmm.
what the cult definitely wants to see happen is this huge gap between the elites and the rest of us.
Right.
The rest of us are going to become more and more destitute,
Hmm.
living in our coffin apartments, just having less and less rights, less and less to eat, less and less freedom. And they're going to be having more and more of this planet, this realm to take their yachts to and to go. Because I think when they go to Monaco, they're pissed because there's like a bunch of us are still there
Right.
when they go to Monaco.
Yeah.
They'd like us to just be out of the way.
Totally. Well, I think that what you were talking about with people just sort of becoming zombified
Oh,
makes
yes.
me think of like The Walking Dead
The Walking Dead.
because I don't know, the whole cootie scare thing that people went
Yes.
through, and everybody going and getting poked and stuff.
Would that have turned them into zombies?
Well,
I look around and I see some people walking around that
they
look
look
like
like
they're zombies.
zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
totally.
something got turned off in them.
Yeah.
Somebody turned out the lights.
Yeah. They're
And you're
just
not thinking, you're not living, you're just kind of like
going through the motions.
they call them NPCs,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Non-player characters.
That's right. And
Right.
the NPC meme is kind of, I think, a metaphor for the zombies in the walkers in The Walking Dead.
Hmm.
And the reason I also like The Walking Dead as an analogy is there's only a few people who are not zombies.
Hmm.
Those are the people who are awake
And they know what's happening.
and they know what's happening, but they're surrounded. And the zombies are kind of a menace
Hmm.
because they're not really competent of themselves, but there's so many of them, and you can kind of get overwhelmed by them.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
I think
And they're kind
that's
of crazy.
they're crazy, and you can kind of just be overwhelmed in numbers where mob rules, and
Right.
now it's like a zombie mob ruling the world, you know?
Totally.
And I think that is interesting because what are the dynamics of a zombie? I think if I was to look at like what's the real analogy? Who's the real person who represents a zombie in society? I think it's somebody who is completely brainwashed by the media. They don't question anything.
Totally oblivious to what's really happening.
Yeah, they don't even want to hear it. And they went and got like 5 booster shots after getting the stabby.
Hmm.
I think those people are probably like technically zombies
Completely.
at this point.
Hmm.
The other thing about the zombie thing too is what if now I'm a conspiracy theorist, but what if they injected stuff into people that now with because did you know how 5G and the vaccines kind of came
happened at the
together
same
at the same
time.
time.
Yeah, they kind of put up a lot of those 5G towers, like when everybody was supposed to be like locked in their homes and
Yeah.
not really out and about and stuff.
I was like disobeying, like, what's that?
Yeah, it's like all these 5G towers going up everywhere.
Yeah, and that doesn't look cool.
No, and
They just look bad.
they're like monstrosities. They're these huge, just
So what
scary
if
looking.
now I'm a conspiracy theorist, but what if they can like do stuff with 5G that turns on, activates something inside these people that they, because remember those big, huge Q-tips during the cootie
The
scare?
ones that they
They're like, no, we can't
did
take
the
a
nose
DNA
raping.
sample. Yeah,
Yeah,
we can't take a DNA sample from just a little bit of saliva. We have to
right.
jab this thing literally all the way up
Up
into
to
your
your
brain,
brain.
up
Yeah,
to your brain.
yeah.
Why? Word around the campfire
Mm,
was that the Q-tips had nanotechnology that they're inserting onto your brain.
totally.
Now, is that completely inconceivable? I don't think so.
I don't think so either because I kept thinking, and I mean, this was just, like my rational way of thinking and how I question things. I kept thinking, why is it that, we're supposed to be wearing like these masks so that we don't, like, I guess, let any of our spit come out because it's highly deadly, but yet
You dirty
to
human.
to test us for this deadly disease, they can't use some of that spit that's so deadly. Like they had the
Just take
plexiglass.
my mask.
Yeah,
If you need
I
to know
mean,
if I got COVID,
I mean
take my
it should
mask.
be all over the place on your mask, right? They had the plexiglass up at the store so you couldn't like spit on each other.
But when you go around the plexiglass to bag your stuff, then you're
Then
like, now I can spit on
it
you.
was okay. But to get the test for it, it had to go all the way up to your brain. So that just never made sense to me.
That was
It was
another blue pill moment. You know what I'm saying? It was like you had to really kind of just completely block
shut
out rational thinking.
shut down all rational
I'm
thinking.
not going to question it at all.
Yeah.
Like that one lady, I'm not asking what's in the infusion. I'm going to roll up my sleeve and take the infusion. Well, you go knock yourself out, lady. I'm going to actually kind of think about
I'm
it
going to
first.
ask what's in the
Yeah,
infusion.
and then they give you the insert at CVS, and it's like, there's
It's
nothing
blank.
on this. He's like, oh.
There's nothing in it.
And remember the pharmacist, he's like, I know I shouldn't be doing this. Have a nice day.
Well, I just also always wonder about these people that are still roaming around with the masks because I'm like, okay, um, obviously those people are some of the zombies that took like multiple pokes, right? Because those
Yeah.
people are scared. They're still scared. So, but I'm thinking, okay, they got poked. So
Aren't you impervious now?
why are they scared of the cooties if they got poked? But I just want to ask them, so why did you get the poke?
Yeah. I thought
Why
you're
why did you get it?
immune.
Yeah, if you don't think it's working, why would you get it?
You know what?
It's just
You know what you would?
doesn't make sense to me.
If you were to ask one of them, I'm sure that you would get a really bad migraine headache when they answered you because they would come. They do have answers. And it's all part of their bubble that they're in.
Programming.
They have their old cult programming, and you go, no, well, you have to keep getting boosted.
It helps a little bit.
I don't get as sick. It's like, what?
I don't go to the hospital as much.
Okay, yeah, but see, I think that might be what's going on because did you notice how many zombie movies came out like in this,
Mm-hmm.
like just since 2000? Like, obviously they came out with The Night of the Living Dead, and there was a kind of like a zombie movie every once in a while, but then there was like
There
whole
was a
plethora
lot.
of them.
Oh, did you ever see that movie Contagion?
I think so.
Oh my gosh, there were a few like that too. And it
Is
was
that the one where the girl from Seven got her head ripped back over her brain?
no, it was the one where like somebody actually went to like a wet market in Wuhan and like ate some Chinese food or something and then got really sick and came back on a plane and all
That sounds familiar.
I don't know. And like all the people like they
When
got
did that come out?
and then it came out oh gosh, I don't know what year.
Was it before the cooties scare?
Several years before the cootie, yeah.
Okay.
And it was almost exactly like what the whole cootie scare was about,
Like it sounds like Event 201. It sounds like the dynamics of Event 201
kind of like
right
Event
there.
201.
They're like, okay, we're gonna have to do this and do that and do this, and they're like, wait a second, I think they did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what? One of my favorite movies is that kind of goes along these lines, and it was a really good book series. It's The Giver.
I saw
The Giver.
it's got the dude from The Big Lebowski in it.
Yeah, and Meryl Streep, who is a total cult member, and she was perfect in this part because she was like
She
the
was
head.
witchy poo.
She was head witchy poo. She was like the head elite person that was like basically controlling all of the little minions.
Yeah.
Um, but that movie was really interesting, and it always makes me wonder too, like, you know, was the author of this like privy to what was going to be happening, or is are these
I think you
authors
got to think, yeah.
kind of, yeah, or
Or at least the plan.
or are they like people like us who kind of see it and then they come up with an idea for a cool
I don't think people
book
like
or
us are
something?
allowed to go make a movie.
We're not. We're not really
I
allowed
don't
to
think you're
become.
allowed.
We're not allowed to become A-listers.
No, I think you have to genuflect, and that involves Harvey Keitel's mid-region. But we can dive into that another day.
But yeah, but anyway, The Giver. So that one, I
Or
think
not Harvey Keitel.
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein. Sorry, it could be Harvey Keitel too.
Harvey
I don't know.
Keitel. The Giver was, totally about all this stuff. Like they didn't allow anybody to really think for themselves or have feelings.
Yeah,
And every morning, everybody had to like take this little injection so that it basically wiped out all of their feelings. So
yeah.
they didn't feel love, they didn't feel anything, and nobody had any memories of, nobody knew like how things were before. Everybody lived in this little community that all the little houses looked exactly the same. And it was really weird.
You're not allowed to know
You're not
what
allowed to know.
happened before.
No, but there's one person in the community that knows what's happened before.
Yeah,
And he's the giver, and he can give the memories to one person from
that
the
was the
next
dude. The
generation.
dude is the giver.
Yeah. And I found,
Why would the giver be even necessary? Well, I guess somebody needs to
well,
know
I
for
think,
the cult purposes.
yeah, I think they felt like it was sort of like a way of, preserving a little bit of history so somebody knew what happened, but they didn't want all of the people to know. They didn't want the general public to know. They just wanted them to stay in their little cubicles and just obey and be happy and not
And I think
have any
that's what the
feelings.
blue pill is.
Hmm.
That's exactly what the blue pill is. You're
Yeah.
not allowed to know what happened in
No,
history.
we
You
don't want
know,
you to know too much.
you
That's why
know,
they keep changing history, like in 1984, day by
that's
day,
why
minute by
at this
minute.
point, and by the way, that pertains to Brave New World too, because
Exactly.
Brave New World, they take Soma, remember?
It was
And it's
that,
like, are you getting out of hand? Take some Soma.
yeah, that movie, The Giver, was kind of a lot like Brave New World.
Yeah,
They had babies made in incubators, and you know, which I think that's what they want to do in real
I
life
think
too.
so. I think so.
You
That's
know.
pretty much because then they can be in control of how many of us there are, because that's
Mhm.
really the problem. There's too many of us. And we can't just be going and procreating on our own and having free will and prosperity. That's not going to be working out for
And
them.
plus, they probably don't want all of us procreating.
No.
They probably want like only, certain types of people to be procreated, so
Yeah, like maybe
they would
certain
make them.
genetic makeup is
Hmm.
more pliable.
Hmm. So if they make babies in incubators, they can control all that.
Yeah, they can control exactly how pliable they are.
Hmm.
Or kind of like, remember we were talking about Sirhan Sirhan?
Yeah,
And the guy
he
was like
was
talking
highly
about,
hypnotizable.
yeah, they're like, well, why is he so like susceptible to being brain controlled, mind controlled? And they're all, well, he is disassociative, which means that he can actually be like activated, and now he thinks he's someplace else.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's crazy
Yeah.
that your mind is like that. And then he also is compliant. He'll if he feels like that's an authority figure telling him to do something, he will do it without question. That's kind of the nature of the zombies,
Yeah,
and the people in the giver.
they want everybody like that.
They don't want you to know what happened in the past. As a matter of fact, I'm starting to think you have to be careful with any assumption that you have about the past.
Right,
Like everything, like
right.
World War II, Civil War, dinosaurs, whatever you've been told. I'm thinking you have to wonder how true any of it is.
Well, exactly. I'm really starting to wonder how true any of it is because I see how they're changing things right now, right before our eyes, the stories and stuff. So,
Like the Ministry of Truth, that's what
yeah,
Winston does.
yeah,
He's like, his daily job is to go back and edit things so that he
day by day, minute by minute. That's what
so it
he was
doesn't
doing.
contradict their narrative,
Yeah,
right? And that's the whole important thing, is maintaining their narrative.
right.
They don't want you thinking outside the box,
No.
you know.
So that really does it has to make you wonder and ask questions about, everything. Like we don't know from history, we don't know exactly what was totally true. We only know what we read in our history books
Yeah.
and what we've been told, but those books could have been changed and we don't know unless we have firsthand
That's why
knowledge.
when I hear like I always pick on like the virtue signaling people that always want to bring up racism and how white people are bad and they were enslaving the blacks. And I'll be like, you I think you need to be careful assuming what you think you know about 1600s and the 1700s. I don't think that we can truly rest in what we've been told at all.
No. And we don't know, we know they've changed certain things, so why wouldn't they have changed other things too? And that also makes me start thinking about Antarctica because
Yeah.
the Antarctic Treaty, I mean, every nation had agreed to like not talk about it and not go there. We can't
Yeah,
we don't
nothing
get along
fishy there.
we don't get along with every nation. Like why would we all agree on that?
I don't
You
know.
know what I mean?
There's something they're hiding down there. I know it.
It's super weird.
But see, I think that's kind of like the nature of these movies is showing you that the ideal, right? I think that what movies are is the ideal.
Mhm.
They want you to see, even if it's a dystopia, it's the dystopia that they kind of want you to get ready for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think, one of the things they're getting us ready for now, which they're actually talking about, is like this constant state of surveillance and digital tracking,
Yeah.
and just like
Like
in
Larry
Minority,
Ellison.
yeah, Minority Report. I mean, isn't
Oh
that,
yeah.
they're going to
Pre-crime.
pre-crime. They're going to
Mhm.
know what we're thinking. And if it is true that they can somehow control our thoughts with a brain chip. I mean, if that ever happens, they might also be able to read our thoughts
That's what
too,
Larry Ellison said. He
you know?
said Larry Ellison with his annoying voice, he was just like, "Oh, in the future, people are going to be extremely well behaved
Yeah,
because we're
because
going to be surveilling
we're
you."
going to be watching every move you make.
Every move,
Yeah.
like in the bathroom, dude, really? I mean, come on. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of what they're saying in Minority Report. They're saying, because remember in Minority Report, when Tom Cruise walks into the mall for a second, all of the ads are suddenly
Targeted to him.
targeting to him.
Yeah, so they will watch you in the bathroom and there'll probably be an ad that comes up while you're on the toilet that shows you what kind of toilet paper you like.
Exactly. Yeah,
You know,
these ones are nicer. It's like, okay,
you're running low on your Charmin.
yeah. And then what? How about the whole pre-crime thing where they're trying to nip in the bud people who are going to commit a crime
Yeah.
based on certain telltale factors. Now, in that movie, they
Isn't
had
that
like
called profiling?
that's what it is. And I think that's what's going on right now. I think behind the scenes right now, what we need to be aware of, and that's what this Trump Elon initiative is kind of distracting us from, is they're building profiles on everybody.
Mhm.
And they're what are they going to do with those profiles?
And everybody's got one because everybody's got like social media and they're putting all their family pictures out there and everything
And my
else,
phone's in my pocket everywhere I go, so they know everywhere I go
Right.
every day.
Yeah. The only good thing is we can put the phone away or we can throw it out into the
That's
ocean.
true.
Once you get chipped, you can't really walk away from that.
Elon's just like, we're just going to take out a little bit of your skull.
It won't hurt much.
It's like, no, thank you. I don't need that.
So, do you think everything is kind of headed in the direction of idiocracy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Idiocracy, I feel like, was probably the most accurate dystopian
It's what's
future.
really going to be happening.
It's what's really
What's
happening.
actually happening now. I mean, so it kind of
People just so stupid.
so everybody's just so dumbed down and just just idiots. And it's funny because when I watch like some of these YouTubers, I just think, oh my gosh, like these guys, they're basically commenting on somebody else's video and they're like laughing and making jokes, and people are watching this and being entertained by it. And I don't understand
People have given up
what's,
on thinking.
yeah,
They've
it's
given
like
up
I
on
don't have
thinking.
to think about this. I just
Nothing. You can totally be a non-thinker these days. You
Mhm.
don't have to think to survive.
No, that's what they want. They want us on universal basic income and
There's a
put the
song.
VR
There's a
goggles on.
song by Bad Religion. It goes, "You don't have to think to survive, so nobody listens." So
Oh,
if you don't have to think to survive, then why should you care about what's going on in the world?
yeah.
Why do you? I don't have to think.
Just take your blue pill and shut up.
And I think a lot of people are content to do that. And I think maybe that might be one of the dynamics of red pilled people is that's not sufficient for some people. Some people are like, no, this doesn't sit well with me for whatever reason. And then they start looking into things. And I think that's why the profile.
Right.
If you're somebody who kind of just doesn't look like this sits well with you, then you need to kind of be calibrated. So, yeah, I think in the movies, what we're seeing is them kind of showing us the dystopian future, which is dystopian.
Yeah.
All the movies are dystopian if you see about the future. Like there was the other one, V for Vendetta,
Oh,
that
yeah.
came out in 2004. And it was like, just happened to be about a pharmaceutical company that releases a deadly virus. That sounds
Interesting.
familiar.
The X-Files had an episode like that.
Yeah.
It was really interesting how
And The
that happened.
Simpsons, remember in 93?
The
Did you see that
Simpsons.
Simpsons thing?
What's up with the Simpsons?
They're in the cult,
Okay, they're
clearly.
totally in the cult because it's like all of their shows end up being predictive programming.
Yeah,
They're
and I
all,
mean, either Matt Groening is like
psychic.
Nostradamus,
He's like
or
psychic.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think that's the case. I think that what we're witnessing right now in life is not organic. It's
Mhm.
almost like art, life imitating art, in that everything's scripted. That's kind of what I'm starting to see. And
Mhm.
when you start to look at everything as being inorganic and scripted, then you start to see
Every
everywhere you look, everything seems scripted.
everything's like a movie.
Everything's like a movie. Nothing's organic. Nothing's just happening out of just a spontaneous spark of ideas. Everything is just following this linear pattern that's been all set up. And I think what people like you and me are doing is saying, "Hey, no, 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 I don't want to do this. I don't want to go there." And they're just like, "Please shut up." You know what I'm saying?
So, okay, so since we don't like to be like black pilled Debbie Downers, we like to be white pilled and have,
Yes.
kind of have hope and think that we matter, our opinions matter, and we can maybe make a change. What do you think we can do? I think that just being aware of this and knowing and keeping, taking the blinders off and keeping an open mind and opening your eyes. And when you see these things and watch the movies, like realize that, wow, this story that they're showing me might be happening in a couple months or
That's right.
something.
You know what I think? I think my white pill is we become the cool kids.
Right.
We become the cool kids because everybody kind of follows along with the zeitgeist. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Everybody kind of falls in line and just goes, Joe Rogan, isn't it? Okay, he's the guy.
And you know what? There's like a certain tipping point
Yeah.
where, everybody's like following, like the zombies are all kind of following along in this direction. They're like going off to get like another poke and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But as more and more people become aware of these things and realize kind of what's happening, then, they start talking about it. And then a few more jump off and they start going in this other direction. And then a few more start going.
That's what happened at Jonestown.
Yeah. And they all start to follow in the other direction. And I think that's what we're hoping is,
That's what I think is
yeah.
because at Jonestown it started to break down because the senator came down to the compound in Guyana and he said, if anybody wants to leave, you can leave with me right now. And then a few people were like, I think I'm gonna go. And then other people were like, you're gonna leave? It's like, yeah, he's like, I think gonna kill us.
He's got weird Kool-Aid over there that I got to right one.
Because at that point, Jim Jones was telling them stuff like, "This world is so corrupt. The best thing for us to do is just all die." And like once he starts saying that, I'm probably going to go. I think I'm just going to go
I think
take
there
off.
might be a better
Yeah,
idea.
like I'll rather get killed than just die.
Yeah,
So at
exactly.
least take that. But I think that's kind of what the hope is once you kind of plant the seed, sometimes people are going to wake up. Because look at how the people get programmed. It's like it was like cooties, 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 Ukraine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was like all of a sudden, and then people are like, I don't even know where Ukraine is, but yeah, God
And
damn
then
it,
they hung their Ukraine flag up.
in my car driving around Ukraine, and where is it? It's over by Iraq somewhere. I don't know. But I think that's kind of what happens. So the blue pill people are going to go from narrative to narrative to narrative.
Right.
Now it's um, Trump is a tyrant. That's what's feeding
Yeah.
them, right?
Yeah.
That's what's going in their brain. So what you have to do is kind of whether they're in the Trump cults where they're going, Trump is from
Trump
God.
is
He's
God's
here to save
chosen
us
one.
from the lefties,
Yeah.
you know, or it's the opposite of the Trump cult. It's Trump's a tyrant. I think both people are getting blue pilled.
Hmm.
And what you have to do is you have to just say, well, what about this? And once you kind of just plant a seed, you can see people kind of open their eyes.
Some
Because I remember when I was an activist during the Stabbies,
Mhm.
and I would watch people, I'd talk to them, and they would be on their way to get Stabbies or like totally like not even like completely clueless. And I think the best thing to do is just ask a couple of questions. Don't tell people and contradict them and try to like act like you're a know-it-all, but just kind of ask questions. I think that's a solution.
Well, I think that's what we do is we're not claiming to be know-it-alls,
I want to do
but
that.
but we do ask questions, and that's where this all stemmed from, you know. So I think we have to do the same with Hollywood movies. And when we see stuff, we need to ask questions like, that's an interesting
I mean, The Matrix
for the
is such an
movie.
entertaining movie that it's real easy to just be like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
But wait a second.
Hmm.
Just let's ask, are they kind of telling us where we're going? Is that what we're heading towards?
Hmm.
And is there a matrix?
Basically, like all the science fiction movies are probably like predictive programming, and maybe even some of the,
They had that
like
one, I can't remember
Guardians
what it
of the
was called,
Galaxy.
where what was that one where when you became 30 years old, you had like some big ceremony and they would kill you? That came
Ah,
out in the 70s. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like what we can't have people over 30.
yeah.
So everybody died at
Well,
30.
they did something similar in The Giver. It wasn't 30. I don't know what the age was, but it was like when the people got older, they got sent to elsewhere. They never really talked about what elsewhere was.
Which means they got given a special stabby in the other
They
room.
went elsewhere. We never saw those people again.
That was like in The Running Man. The Running Man was kind of a gnarly dystopia too with
Yeah.
Arnold, where the previous winners and like what they were on some island living in some paradise because they won the Running Man. So it got all the people are desperate living in squalor, right? And they would say, "Come be a contestant on the Running Man." And then you could win and be like these lucky winners. And then let's check in with Rick, and he's having a cocktail on the island, but actually Rick is dead in the other room, right? And that was kind of like the Hunger Games. I'm wondering if that's kind of maybe the future that they're kind of seeing for us, where we're all destitute and desperate for anything. So they have games that they set up for us to compete in. Because then they have like the Squid Games, which was on
Right.
Netflix. There's all
Yeah.
these like games that it seems like the elites want us to be used for.
And they're kind of programming people into wanting to watch these games. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's
yeah.
like Survivor and all those shows, and even all of the YouTube stuff is like a lot of it's about like playing these stupid games and then you get like a prize for like, oh, if you can stand on this box
What
for 2 hours,
if
you get $100.
what if that's conditioning you to join in the social credit score system? Because I think that's what's coming in.
Mhm.
We've been in the social credit score system for a long time.
Yeah.
And what if that's conditioning people to play those games? It's a reality show.
Yeah.
Life is not life.
It's a
It's a
reality
reality
show.
show. And what you need to do is not get voted off.
Right.
And how do you not get voted off? You
You
obey the
follow the
media.
rules.
You follow the rules. people like you and me, like I think we like found some driftwood and like paddled off the island, and now we're naked and afraid. But at least we're not in the reality show. We're naked and afraid, though. It kind of sucks still,
Yeah.
but at least we're not like being those competitors. Because I think for me, it was more like I can't be like them.
Right.
I can't allow myself to go be a competitor like that.
Yeah.
It's just I won't
Or
do
be a
it.
zombie.
Or a zombie. I won't do it. I mean, I've come close to becoming a zombie at times, but even when I'm completely zombified, I'm still like cognizant at least enough to know. But I think the reality show thing is the social credit score.
Hmm.
And I think the movies, a lot of them are getting us to think like that. Like, look, you'll be fine. You just obey us. And you do these little things. And then life is a game, it's a competition, and you can win and you can be like these lucky winners. But actually, those lucky winners are dead. So I'm thinking maybe that might be what's going on with the movies.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Well, who knows? Who knows? Maybe all these people are just wonderful people and those are just art and just don't even think about it
That's
too
true.
much.
That could be too.
It's just entertainment.
Yeah.
Go have some popcorn and a soda.
That's infused with some human cells.
What's in there? Is this dead baby? Yes. Oh, good. Can I get a little bit more dead baby on my popcorn?
So gross. Well, I think that was really interesting.
Are we going to talk about Hollywood people next time?
Yeah, I
Ew.
think that's a good segue since we talked about all these movies. I think the next rabbit hole we should go down is, are you ready? Do you have your do you have your hazmat suit
I
ready?
think you do. You need to like put on like
You
disinfectant
need extra
suit.
protection.
Yeah, and then you also have to like go take a shower after you're done.
Yeah,
Because
we're
it's
gonna
pretty
go
gross.
we're gonna go down the Hollywood rabbit hole.
That sounds good. Yeah, because I think it like talking about the movies, why would all the movies be kind of, revealing the method of the cult? I think it kind of shows in order to make movies, you kind of got to like
You got to be
join
in
the
cult.
cult.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
I can't wait.
Okay.
All right. Well, it was good seeing you again.
Good seeing you.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.